And joining me to talk about it and explain why that action should be taken is Dominic Rothwell, Unite Union Regional Officer. Hello, Dominic. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Vanessa.
So explain what's going on and why it has to happen right now, slap bang in the middle of everybody's summer holidays, just when people have saved up right through a cost of living crisis, as I know you know, and just at the time when finally travel levels were starting to reach what they used to be in 2019. So why strike right now, Dominic?
So Unite members at Gatwick have voted overwhelmingly for strike action. Put simply, the ground staff at Gatwick are not prepared to put up with poor wages any longer. They live and work in one of the most expensive areas of the country, and this is the UK's second busiest airport and probably the busiest single runway airport in the UK, in Europe. Sorry, apologies. This dispute's about making sure these workers earn a wage that they can survive on.
And explain what kind of a wage they're on now. How much money are they earning for some jobs that they do, which are incredibly important jobs and on whose accuracy and good decisions we totally depend for our lives, don't we?
So these workers are your baggage handlers, they're ramp agents, check-in staff, gate staff, dispatchers. They all work in safety critical roles and are responsible for passenger and airplane safety. And they're earning on average below £12 an hour. Now, I spoke to a member the other day. She works at check-in for EasyJet. She doesn't drive. She lives in Crawley. And she was telling me that by the second week after payday, she can't afford the bus fare to get to work and she walks to work. She has shifts that start at 2:30 in the morning. This can't be right.
And tell me why now, though, because this hasn't suddenly happened, has it? This is obviously something that's been going on for a while, and I think lots of people will have wished that if you were going to strike to make your point, and lots of people, I'm sure, will understand why, lots of people won't, but those that do will think, goodness, couldn't they have gone on strike, you know, before the peak holiday period, maybe while the kids were still at school? That would have been so much easier for everybody else as far as summer holidays are concerned.
All four companies, so we're talking about ASC that handles for TUI, Menzies Aviation, which handles for Ryanair. They also handle for Wizz. GGS, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of British Airways, and DHL, who have the contract to handle for EasyJet. They've all had pay claims since January, and they've all had ample opportunity to make a fair offer to their staff, but have chosen not to do so. Of course, strikes are disruptive, that's the point. But these workers have been pushed into a corner. They have no choice but to fight for better pay.
As far as you're concerned, are the airlines making enormous profits at the expense of Unite workers, do you feel?
Well, over the last 20 years, airlines have been very creative at outsourcing their ground handling, and they've managed to very successfully keep labour costs down by doing that and pitching workers against workers. When we look at the airlines themselves, EasyJet load factor for the first half of this year was 88%. That's compared to 90.3% pre-pandemic. TUI are boasting about volume 6% plus pre-pandemic. So we would argue that that recovery has already happened. There appears to be a pay and bonus bonanza happening in the boardrooms of these airlines. And our members are sick of having to live off the scraps from the boardroom table.
So your members, you say, are earning around about £12 an hour, sometimes less. What sorts of money are the bosses and the board members that you talk about earning?
Well, when we look at the CEO of EasyJet, I believe they've reported to be taking home about £3 million a year. The CFO of that company takes home £2.1 million. And then if we look at TUI, it's reported that there's a salary of up to £6 million. Now, if you look at FTSE 100 CEOs, in 2021, they rewarded themselves with a 39% pay increase. In 2022, they awarded themselves a 23% pay increase. So we hear these arguments about pay restraint, but we're not seeing them from the heads of these businesses.
And do you hope or do you believe that going on strike right through the peak period of travel this summer will result in an increase in wages? Or do you think that there will be resistance from management, that the strikes will take place, everyone will suffer, and it'll all sort of peter out in the autumn with nothing much having been achieved?
Well, we certainly hope that isn't the case. I think passengers have every right to be angry, but not at the ground staff at Gatwick, who do incredibly hard work under difficult circumstances. This dispute is the fault of the employer. They've had 6 months to make an offer to make an acceptable offer to staff. And there was another report out last week from the Airlines Council International, which raised concerns about airlines increasing fares by 30% already this year. So not only are they not doing right by their customers, they're not doing right by their staff.
And tell me about Unite staff at other airports, because obviously there are other major airports where people are doing the very same jobs. Does it not apply to Unite staff at other airports too?
Well, I'm the regional officer for Gatwick Blow Wing members, so I'm not able to talk knowledgeably about what's happening in some of the other airports in the UK with other regional officers. But I believe, the problem of outsourcing is rife within this industry, and it's been a very effective way at keeping wages down. This has all come to a head because of obviously the cost of living crisis. People can't afford to survive on these wages anymore.